Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. I've got comedian Joe Bartnick and Josh Yohe with The Athletic alongside, and it is here. It's Christmas in March. It is the trade deadline, ladies and gentlemen. We have a couple of things that have happened already, and we'll get Josh's latest on what he's hearing, what's going to happen with the Penguins. We're brought to you, as always, by the Neophis Insurance Group. But Josh is out in Las Vegas right now, and we had two trades yesterday. We'll go over those. Desharnais for a 5th-round pick, and then of course Bunting and a 4th-round pick for Luke Schenn and Tommy Novak. But were you a little surprised by those yesterday?
Maybe a little surprised, not shocked. I don't think Bunting was necessarily somebody who endeared himself to the coaching staff at times. We know he was a healthy scratch a few times in October and November. Played better since then, but it's not like he was, some undeniable part of the Penguins' future. I don't think anybody thought that. And Novak, he's a good player. Like, I think he's probably a better player than Bunting. He's a little younger. He's a little cheaper. He plays center, which is a more important position. So you add it all up. I think Kyle was just a guy he liked a little better. It reminded me a little bit of the Rucker-McGroarty trade, really. That was just two prospects. I like this prospect a little better for a couple of reasons. Whereas, these are two fairly young NHL players, but I like this one a little better. It makes a lot of sense. And I'd heard his name before as somebody that they really liked. Kyle obviously likes doing deals with the Predators. He always seems to have an eye on them. A little bit of an odd trade that maybe nobody was expecting, but I think it makes some sense from the Penguins' perspective. But I hardly think Kyle is done here in the next 36 hours or so.
Josh, Corey, I absolutely love this trade. I couldn't wait to get rid of Bunting as soon as we got him in the first place. He's proven not to be a winning player. Good riddance. Tommy Novak, exactly what we need. Young kid, upside, targets right in, nice third-line center, nowhere to go but up. And Mr. Schenn, if we keep Schenn, great. But I'd say, Mr. Schenn, don't even come to Pittsburgh. Just stay at the cigar bar in Nashville, because I don't think beyond a shadow of a doubt he's getting flipped for a really nice big piece, because there's going to be a bidding war for Mr. Schenn. I think you agree with that, don't you, Josh?
Well, what's interesting? Kyle told us last night, very late last night, that he legitimately likes Schenn and wants to keep him around, and he had some toughness. That might all be true. But Brian Dumoulin just got traded to New Jersey for a 2nd-round pick and a prospect, for God's sake. This market is unbelievable. They absolutely could flip Schenn for, it's a 2nd or 3rd-round pick, right? Something like that. So, and if they could, I still think that's a lot more helpful to the future than keeping Luke Schenn around. I don't think they mind keeping him. I wonder if Schenn wants to be in Pittsburgh. This is a 35-year-old guy at the end of his career. Why wouldn't he want to play for a winner? I'm sure when he heard he was getting traded, he got excited. Why are you sending me to Pittsburgh? They're just kind of playing out the season. So I'm curious to see if he wants to go in the next 24 hours. But there's no question they could flip this guy. This is a pretty respected defenseman. If you're a playoff team, you throw him on your third pairing. The size he adds and the experience, that's the kind of guy teams want this time of year.
Don't get me wrong. I love Schenn, and I think he'd be a great partner for Brunicki next year. I just we got rid of Desharnais, which is kind of like Luke Schenn light, if you will. So I think there's a chance they may keep him, and I would love him if he started the season next year. We sent him in the summer. I just think the chance to flip him now with us going nowhere, I think we can get an absolute player. You think? I think a package could get us like one of Toronto's great young centers.
Well, who knows? And it's funny you bring that up, because when we talk about the trade deadline and moves the Penguins may make in the next 24 hours, everybody talks about draft picks, 1st-round picks, and I get it. And I think Kyle would be happy to add some of those. But from everything I hear, he's looking to expedite the process a little bit. He wants guys who are ready to play now. He wants prospects as opposed to picks. He wants young NHL players like a Tommy Novak. So that's something to keep in mind, I think, for fans who are trying to project what might happen. Draft picks are great, but they aren't really the ultimate goal for Dubas. He wants something more than that. And Joe, this market is insane. I mean, it's unbelievable. The amount of picks and prospects teams are just giving up for average NHL players. Like, I love Dumo. The Dumo's not that great anymore. If you've watched him play in the last 5 years, he's never been the same, really, since he got hurt in 2019 against St. Louis. Like, as I tweeted earlier, like, this isn't 2017 Dumo we're talking about, and you're still giving up a second-round pick and a prospect for him. It's crazy to me.
That's why I can't. I mean, what does Dubas have on Trotz? I think this is a magnificent trade. I mean, literally, Novak for Bunting, you can say that's a hockey trade. Okay, yeah. you can see why they would like Bunting, because he has more protection. I said this on the DV morning show this morning. It's like Bunting is a good player either on a crap team where you want to just invent some energy, or on a very good team where he can play the third line and he has protection. All he does on our team is cause nonsense that gives Sid and Gino more face washes than needed. I know he scored a power play, but Jesus Christ, thank God somebody did. I mean, all the setups that Sid and Gino had, anybody with a pulse not named Glass could score on our power play. No offense to Rusty. He made Rusty a 30-goal scorer. Like, Rusty scored the Beauvillier. I mean, it's not like it takes a genius to take a feed from Sidney freaking Crosby to score on a power play goal. Unfortunately, we don't have enough of those guys. I'm getting fired up. But but here's my point, Josh and Corey. We stole Luke Shen. Luke Shen could give you a first-round pick, or Toronto will give you half the city for Luke Shen right now.
Well, regarding Bunting, I mentioned this in my article last night, and I appreciate the scrappy nature of his game, but how important is it, like, when the scrappy guy's like 5'10", 180, is it really that helpful? It reminds me of Mike Terran's legendary rant when he said Max Talbot was the only guy who showed any toughness. And he said, "What's Max, like 5'5", whatever, 100, whatever he said." Like, yeah, I mean, Bunting was always going to be limited. He was kind of a weird player. Like, he'd be streaky. He'd go in those little bursts, like, man, this guy can really play. But then he would just disappear for a month, and he didn't have much in the way of hockey IQ. He was terrible defensively. His legendary offside on Gino's highlight reel goal this year still sticks with you, Joe, I know.
It lives in infamy. It's like the Simone bad penalty. It's like the Erod bad penalty. It lives in infamy. I said they went to take out his appendix. They couldn't find any hockey sense when they were in there.
No, I mean, so I was a little surprised by the trade, but when I looked at it, I really liked it. And no, Shen's value is a real thing. I don't know what you could get for him, but you could get something pretty nice, I have to think. So if I'm Dubas, like, that's nice that, Shen had some toughness, but like, who gives a shit? You're one of the 5 worst teams in the league right now. I mean, that's reality. And I don't think they're going to be very good next year, and I think he has to be aware of that. So whether you flip Shen or not now, you certainly might this summer. He has 1 year left on his deal. He's going to be 36 years old. So I personally would flip him, although it certainly seems like they are open to the idea of keeping him. But I just can't get over this market. I don't think we've ever seen it like this. So we got a glimpse of it when you get a first-round pick and potentially a really good first-round pick for Pettersson and O'Connor. Like, that's when it kind of started. Leave it to old man Jimmy to set the bar a certain way for the sellers. But man, it's a good time to be a seller.
When you think about it, a Raquel Shen package, that is Detroit Toronto in the Showcase Showdown. Right? A scoring winger and a tough stay-home defenseman. I mean, that's literally your playoff package.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to get you that gets you a first, a second, and like their best prospect. I mean, really, it probably does.
That's and I don't know if Pursuit just beating on me for 4 hours this morning, but I'm almost in the trade Raquel now camp by now. Even though
it's a really interesting debate, isn't it? And part of that is we don't know where the market goes 6 months from now. Because I always say with Raquel, like, you can trade him down the road if you want to do that. And the cap goes up next year, so teams might be even more aggressive. But I don't know that it will be this much of a seller's market. It's hard to imagine that it would be. Like, this is unprecedented what we're seeing right now. So if you're Dubas, like, I know Dubas has reservations about dealing Raquel. He knows it's a good contract for a couple of more years. He knows he plays great with Sid. Like, those are important things. But it's also Dubas's responsibility to build a team for down the road, not right at this moment. So from that standpoint, man, I mean, if he could really, really get a massive return for him right now, I understand why he would do it. And I have heard, Joe, I think we've lost Corey for a second. I've heard like he's just asking for an enormous amount.
Well,
for
you
Raquel,
get.
and you can't blame
I'm
him.
not going to give away your sources or what you told me, but I floated that by Mr. Pursuta, and then he was like, "Whoa!" And I gave him my scouting report on that guy, which is good. You know, I, I'm not of the keep Sid happy. I'm not of the keep Sid at his 20 at his point pace, because I think he will anyway, as long as Rusty stays healthy and he plays some power play. I'm of the opinion of the second you trade Raquel, you're looking for Raquel. That guy worth $5 million that can score 30. As soon as he walks out the door, you're looking for him.
And for those of us that had technical difficulties, Josh, who's the thing you floated for Raquel?
We're not giving it away because it's not.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you mentioned something.
No, not specific. We're talking hypotheticals, but we were talking about what a Raquel and Shen package could get back for the Penguins, like something enormous, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, and no, you're right, Joe. I mean, that if you deal Raquel, of course you're looking for him again. Although I can, give the counter argument and say, wouldn't you rather be looking for another Raquel if you had a first round pick and a great prospect in your pocket also? That's the thing here. So that there's all kinds of different ways to look at it. But I have heard all along that Kyle is not eager to trade Raquel, but if somebody wants to meet his price, okay. He's not untradeable. And the Sid stuff, like, I know Sid doesn't want Raquel to go. I get that. But I think Sid also knew what he signed up for when he signed his new contract. He knew this could be coming and that there was going to have to be some retooling. And I'm sure they would hate to trade his best winger a second year in a row. That sucks. I get it. But that might be the spot that they're in. And I understand it from Dubas's standpoint. If somebody throws, hey, for Raquel, here's our best prospect. Here's, a first round pick and here's a second round pick, like something like that. Like, I don't know how he says no.
I've talked about this all morning, and you've heard me on here for a year. I just want faces. I want shoots right, shoots left. I want faces. I want height, weight, and penalty minutes. That's why I don't want to see draft numbers. I don't want to see the year. I don't have that strong of a heart. I may not live to 2028. I want to see someone. I don't care if he's in Latvia, Russia, the AHL. I don't care if he's in Carrick. I want to see who's coming. I don't want, to me, draft picks just kick the can down the road. I want to see a human being.
Jim Rutherford said to me a couple of years ago, he goes, these first round picks, I'm not getting any younger. I want to win Stanley Cups.
It's a good point. I mean, I agree with you, Joe. Get me faces, but I also am of the mindset that give me every 2026 first round pick. Like, if there's a way that you could stack the deck that you're a 33% chance of getting Gavin McKenna, then by all means do it.
I think Corey, if you're talking first round picks, I think 2026 first round picks are a lot more valuable than 2025 just because of him. I think that's a fair point, but I keep hearing that Dubas, like, he wants legit prospects who are close to NHL ready, whether it be, Ontario Hockey League guys, Western guys, college guys, whatever. That certainly is preferred to, that second round pick next year or whatever. He isn't messing around. And in fact, young NHL players, like we saw with Novak, who's not that young, but he's 27, he's fairly young. They can be part of this too. It doesn't have to just be draft picks. He doesn't want some 5-year rebuild. He really doesn't. He wants to get good again in a hurry, a la the Capitals, what we've seen the Kings do a few years back. That's what he wants.
Me personally, I would rather Raquel go with Jari than get a first round pick back. I want that logjam gone. I want Miroshov to be in Wilkes-Barre next year and maybe Pittsburgh. If he's that good of a goaltender, why are we holding back Patrick Waugh for $5 million? If we can't, I don't like buying out. I don't like dead money. That's Billy Guerin. Just find a sucker. Oh, you want Raquel and Shen that bad? Well, here's our headache. Goodbye.
I think you could get a first-round pick and take Jari off the books. I'd be, couldn't hit that button fast enough.
Well, that's the balance. And I can't get a sense from Kyle what's more important to him, to ditch all that money or just to get, high draft picks and prospects. I don't think he's too worried about the money the next year or so. Like some people were complaining about Shen's salary next year. Like, they're not going to win the cup next year. Okay, so you don't need – who cares about the salary cap next year? But the problem with buyouts is that still screws you 5 years down the road.
Exactly.
When you plan on – and some people, it's only like $800,000 by 2030. Well, that's still $800,000. Like, that adds up. That still might theoretically prohibit you from adding a player you want to add when you're good again. So buyouts are never good. To me, that's always the last resort. I would certainly consider it. And the logjam thing that you mentioned is real. I mean – Mike Sullivan talked the other day about Blomqvist going down and Jari coming back up. He didn't even mention Jari. All he basically said was, "Well, we're trying to protect the young player a little bit and do what's best for him." You just have the sense they are so done with Jari. I'm sure they'll give him a couple of starts here at some point, but it's not a good situation.
And no one's taking him off your hands. Say what you want about Graves. You can play him. Say what you want about, Carlson. Yeah, he makes mistakes, but whatever. He can play.
Yeah.
Jari's unplayable.
Right. No,
Beyond unplayable.
That's where we are at this point. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see what he can do. And again, I keep going back to the salary cap going way up this summer. That only adds to it. It's going to be, this week is fun, so I don't mean to get ahead of ourselves, but this summer is going to be fascinating in so many ways. And what if they don't trade Raquel? If you decide to keep him, then what happens is July 1st, Brian Rust, no movement clause is gone. And I promise you teams are going to ask about him. I'm not saying he's going to get traded. I don't think the Penguins want to move him. But, man, what could – I was just thinking this morning, what could you get for Brian Rust in this climate right now? Like, seriously, could you get 2 first-round picks for him? I'm not saying they should do it. But it's incredible with the prices that we're seeing right now. It's not like the Penguins don't have movable assets.
Could you imagine if Jake Gensel was available this year? If it would have been just one more year, it would have been a huge return.
I think Jake got a good contract myself.
Well, no, but I mean, I think I'm saying for Jake, the trade, what we could have got for him.
And I really, really like Jake, and he's a hell of a player, and he could have won the MVP but you talk about like falling up, like now he's on Tampa Bay, who I think made incredible moves yesterday.
They might win the whole damn thing.
Yeah. I mean, like he could have accidentally signed with the wrong team. He could have got traded to the wrong team. Like, this is perfect for him. Like, and good on him. I'm happy for Jake. But, to play with Point and Cooch every night, not a bad deal. Living in Tampa.
No, it's not.
Heaven forbid he's out, $8 million, Corey.
Yeah. Yeah. I have I just threw a question up that came from YouTube. Ryan Cunningham said, if with Dumo getting a second and a prospect, what could Grzelcyk get?
I mean, probably something comparable. I don't know. I mean, Dumoulin's funny because we all know Dumoulin's not the same player he was. But those 2 Stanley Cup rings and that resume still, I think, carries a lot of water. But I've thought all along, you're not going to get a first-round pick for Matt Grzelcyk. But in this market, maybe a second. I would think possibly for the right team, especially a team that might need some power play help. Go
ahead. I was just going to say your article, that group, like with Grzelcyk in them.
Like, even if you could get a third for him, you do it, right? I mean, you're not bringing him back next year in all likelihood. So there's no point in keeping him, I don't think. But when I saw Dumo, like, it's a second rounder and a prospect. I don't know how good the prospect is. I have no idea. It's like, Jesus, that's God bless Dumo, but that's a lot for him.
Well, he the GM in New Jersey knows Dumo's work, and Dumo's had a bounce back year. He's played okay. He's played pretty good this year. You know what Dumo's done? He's speaking of log jams. He's keeping a lot of young prospects from not playing and asking for trades in Anaheim. He's played that well. Dumo's had a bounce. He's never going to be 2016 Dumo anymore.
No.
But he's had a good year. It's a solid pickup for Jersey. I'm wondering what I said this last night on podcast. I mean, the hockey world should be sad that we lost, other than, Jesus and McKinnon, a top 5 guy that you jump out of your seat, and that's Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
I love watching that guy play. It's a shame he's out for the year.
No, it sucks. It really does. And I was curious, if you're Jersey at that point, like there's so many ways you can look at it. Like a part of me thought, should they just sell and just say to hell with this year? In this market, you get a couple of huge assets, and then next year you're probably a contender, assuming Jack's healthy. Getting Dumo tells me they're probably not doing that.
Right.
But they're in an interesting spot. There are so many teams. That's one of the funny things about this market. Like we talked about this the other day. We know who some of the buyers are. We know who some of the sellers are. There's so many teams that are like, Buffalo should be a seller, but I don't know that they are. Like, I think they actually finally want to add some actual players, but they don't seem to know what they're doing. There's some serious incompetence going on in Buffalo. There's other teams like that are Utah. There's teams that are not really contenders, but they still want to add NHL players right now. It's a weird market.
That's why I really think we can get the Kings. It's Minton and a center I'm forgetting, and probably a number 1 pick if it isn't already gone from Toronto, because they've seen what Seth Jones in a top 4 role, not playing 30 minutes a night in a place that rejuvenates defensemen, is incredible for the Florida Panthers. They see what Tampa did. Cousin Oliver and Yanni Gord. Now they have a 3rd line in Tampa. I mean, Toronto needs to win that division. So I think they're going to be big. Then what do they need? They need a scoring winger, and they need more depth on defense. Shen and Raquel.
And no, you're right. They better win that division. I think the Leafs are really good. I don't think any team's going through Tampa and Florida in back-to-back rounds. I'm sorry. I actually hope Tampa and Florida play in the first round. That could be one of the great first-round series in recent memory. That would be great stuff. But no, so there are just so many, and this is what happens now, right? You see Tampa make a move like that, and they who knows if they're done? They're so aggressive. If you're Toronto or Florida, like, the teams in the Metro stink. So if you get out of your division, you have a real chance to get to the final. But you see Tampa make a move like that. You think they almost have to get aggressive now, which only plays into the hands of a team like the Penguins, who are obviously sellers. So the next 26 hours or so, oh my gosh. I mean, I have to think there's some significant moves coming. I know for a fact the Penguins aren't done. People keep asking me how many moves the Penguins are going to make. It's impossible to put the number out there, but I would guess there's at least a couple of moves coming, if not more. I think Kyle is going to be very busy.
League-wide, though, you say it's significant moves. The Penguins, only Raquel can really change the course of history, unless you're going to say Letang is going somewhere.
I don't think so.
You know what I mean? Like, Grizzlick and everybody else is it's a footnote. It's not going to make Elliott storm the beaches on Sportsnet tomorrow night. You know what I mean? Right. It's not a Seth Jones.
Right, and that's where we are. Well, okay, so I think you will see minor deals. Like, I would be surprised if Grizzlick's around after tomorrow. I would be surprised if Anthony Beauvillier's around. Like, those are guys you can get mid-range draft picks for them. Fine.
Yeah. And good on Beauvillier. He's had a good year for us.
Yeah, I thought he was really good the other night in Colorado too. Except for the penalty. But anyway,
I was due. Rupper jinxed us. I know you weren't watching the feed.
Did he?
Yeah, because he goes, "Well, we haven't taken a penalty all game."
Yeah.
You knew it was coming. It was 2-0 penalty wise. You knew it was coming.
Of course you did. So okay, I expect minor stuff. The question now, I think, is the bigger names, and the only big names who are out there at all are Raquel and Erik Karlsson. I do think Erik Karlsson's going to be traded at some point. I think it's far more likely it happens in the summer. Not that teams aren't necessarily interested now, but that's a really complex deal to get done. And as of a couple of days ago, there was nothing brewing with him. I don't think he plays out his contract in Pittsburgh. I think somebody takes him this summer, but you're probably going to have to wait until then. So now it comes down to Raquel. And if I had to guess, if Raquel gets traded between now and Friday at 3:00, I'm probably leaning like 51-49 yes that he does. Wouldn't shock me if he doesn't. But if I'm Dubas and I'm seeing these other deals around the league, I don't know what has been offered for Raquel. I have to think it's significant. And if he gets what he wants, it's going to happen. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me. But that's the one we're all waiting on. It might take until tomorrow. it certainly wouldn't shock me if he goes. It's going to be interesting. I keep saying it though. Like, what could he get for him? We might be about to find out.
We just I see somebody put in the chat there that Florida just traded for Marco Sturm from San Jose. I'm curious to see what that looks like. Here's a little hope for maybe Shen moving quick. The Erickson family left a comment for us that that on the Pens website, Novak's number is already there, and there is no number for Shen. So maybe the website knows something that we don't.
They told Tags not to waste the plastic.
Nico Sturm, yeah.
Yeah. Marcos, I trade for his dad.
Yeah, it is Nico.
You know, Josh, I don't know if you caught this or Corey. Did you see our old buddy, the great Jesse Puljujärvi, will be available for the Big Cats this playoff season?
Be interesting to see if something happened. If he actually, like, if he scores a game-winning goal in the playoffs, I think Pittsburgh's going to lose their mind.
Penguins fans are going to explode.
I'm always a big Jesse fan.
Oh,
yeah. I was always a big Yessie fan too. I guess he just wasn't. Mike Sullivan wasn't.
There's talent there. You see it all the time with Yessie. He just tends to rub coaches the wrong way.
Yeah.
I just want to see our monster from the Congo one more time before he's banished. The great Boku Imama. I love that man. He gave me the greatest moment of the season.
I was gonna say, if he never plays for the Penguins again, he went out in style. That's for sure.
Hang his number in the rafters.
I know.
I'd like to see more of him. I actually think he helps them. I don't know why he's not playing. I've seen enough of the bottom six. I think some of those guys can sit here and there. I don't think that's going to hurt anyone.
I mean, he literally turned the game around with physicality, and he doesn't take stupid penalties, and he's okay. I love the man. And it was he took the trash out against Hathaway. We talked about this on the original podcast. But I hope he sticks. Around. I hope they move up enough open up space up for him to always get a sweater.
You know, he reminds me of a player that looks like someone like in 05 Crosby's rookie year, where you can see like, okay, half these guys are bums, but you could see some players poking through like a Max Talbot or different people, and you're like, I think that guy's going to be here when we're good. Like,
well. You know, there aren't really any goons in the game anymore, but he's not really. He can play just enough.
Exactly.
You're not going to play him against every team and every matchup, but he's just a nice guy to have around. And as I always say, Sid and Gino like having him around. I promise you, they like having him around. So that's a really good thing. And I don't know that I'm sure he'll play again soon. You're playing a pretty tough team in Vegas tomorrow night. Maybe you dress him against a bigger team like that. Who knows? But this is a tough road trip for the Penguins. And you know what's sad, Joe? They could not have played any better in Denver than they played. They played so well in that game. Like they took it to the Avs most of that game. By the way, I wasn't very impressed with Colorado at all. There's something wrong with that team. But
well, I mean, I'll tell you, my boy Vlad, my boy Val Nikushkin. I mean, we get on net a lot. That made some Fleury-esque saves. Nikushkin could have had 7 goals in that game.
Guy's a great player. Jesus,
I love that guy. I love that guy.
All he was thinking about was Joe trying to entice him out to the bar. Josh take him out to the bar. Like, man, we missed our opportunity. Of course, it's a game winner.
They did, I was saying on the morning show this morning, though, it's been a great week because, the Flyer game was immaculate Thursday. And then Boston, and the next 3 games between Boston, Toronto, and Colorado, they were exciting, fun hockey games. We had chances to win. You could enjoy the whole game, but then we lost. So we didn't lose our standing in the lottery ball circuit, but we still got to watch fun hockey. Whether we lost like 5-1, it was terrible. It was like, we played great. We could have won, but we lost, and okay, we haven't moved up.
And I have to say, guys, like I have so much respect for the Penguins right now. Like, seriously, they're not a good team. We all know they stink, right? They play so hard. Like, I don't know what happened that game in Philly last week, but other than that, like that game in Denver, they played so hard in that game. Like they're playing for nothing. We all know it. I really respect how those players and Sullivan too, just how entrenched they still are. I mean, there should be, I think, a feeling of pride for Penguins fans. It's not like they're just giving up. They still play hard every night. They just can't finish, and they have their issues in terms of goal prevention, as we all know, but they're still giving you your money's worth, I think, on most nights.
See, I said that. I didn't. I basically said that on the morning show, and there was some like him and Han. Like, I don't know if I'm just a Penguin fanatic or I'm looking through black and gold colored glasses, but that's what I see. You guys live here full time. Is that not the feeling around town, or is I'm just with some jaded radio guys, or what was the? I mean,
I think most people aren't paying attention as closely as they usually are. You know what I mean? So like the general sentiment, it's like you go get your haircut and people are like, boy, the Pens stink this year. What's wrong with them? You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know if that guy's watching any game. I'm not saying that the radio guys haven't, like, because I know they do, but I'm just saying that's the prevailing sentiment I see around. And it is hard to me when you see like that Flyers game was such a stinker in Philly. Like they just laid such an egg that it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, No,
but they play hard. I mean, I think any objective, reasonable person can just look at their roster and realize that they're just not that good right now. There's just not a lot of talent on this team after the top 4 or 5 guys. That's just the way it is. But yeah, like I said, there actually have been a lot of entertaining hockey games. You're right. But as we know, most fans, all they really care about is the next 25 hours. And
you can pick, 5 to 10 games in any season, 105-point season where teams mailed it in. And I can name the 5 or 6 games they.
I saw the Maple Leafs do it in Vegas last night.
Yeah, I mean, you know when they've mailed it in this year. They mailed it in against Utah. They mailed it in that Flyer game. There's like 5 or 6 games they totally mailed it in. If you watch that game, yeah. But most of the other games, even when they've been out talented, if I can even use that word, they played hard.
And I think that's what's important for getting us back to a winning team quicker with the mini rebuild is you're not taking your foot off the gas. You know what I mean? Once they have some talent, that's just, a couple pieces getting put back on the car, and now it's in racing mode. So
you're talking about culture, really. And that I think teams that are bad for so long, that's what they lose that. And we see it in Buffalo, Detroit, place like that, where as long as Sid's around, like people are going to play hard. You just need to surround them with better players, which is what Kyle Dubas is trying to do.
You're preaching to the choir. That's what I say. Everyone can go, get rid of everybody. But then you know what? You have no one. And then it takes 20 years to rebuild.
Keep a couple
guys that know how to win. And
get rid of some, absolutely.
Yeah. And, Lemieux and Recchi had a huge impact on the new generation,
Oh, sure. And they'll tell you that. Yeah.
So you need those guys to pave the way, and that's when people are like, Crosby wants to leave. It's not fair. It's like, dude, he literally watched this happen firsthand, So and he wants to win, and he thinks they can, and they probably will. Before we go, because I know Josh has got to run to practice, but you got to go check out Joe at the Low Lev Brewery.
Yes,
that is Saturday at 8 and 10 o'clock. Correct?
Yes. Definitely come to the 8.
Okay. Come to the 8. And hang around. The best part about Joe Bartnick's show is that you can go up and talk hockey afterwards. So make sure you guys go there. But we're gonna do an episode again tomorrow, starting at 2:00, and we're gonna go through the trade deadline. So Josh may be touch and go as he gets phone calls from different GMs and sources. But we figured it would be a fun way to watch the trade deadline live together, and you guys can get the info as it's breaking. So before we go though, Colorado the other night, did they start any kind of chant? All this stuff was I was so annoyed online. Like, it's really weird that the Avalanche fans are so obsessed with getting Crosby. Like, it's weird. Like,
they applaud a couple of occasions, like when he was announced as a starter in the starting lineup, that kind of stuff. A little odd. And of course the media had to ask him after the morning skate. One guy's like, hey, a lot of people liked you and Nate playing together. They'd like to see it again. And Sid gave a friendly answer. And then a Penguins media official said, you can see them play again next year in the Olympics. It's pretty funny. I like when they speak for Sid in those moments.
Don't mess with Jen Milano.
It wasn't Jen. Oh, nah, Jen would have said something nastier. God bless her. The Queen Bee doesn't mess around. But it was amusing. There is a bit of an infatuation with him in Denver.
It's like, I mean, I get it, you like him, but Jesus, like, let it go. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Sid's the nicest human being on earth. Nothing, he's never rude with people. If you want to piss him off a little bit, just keep bringing up the trade rumors. That's the way to get to him. He really, and he has said many times to many different outlets, like, how many more times do I have to say I want to be in Pittsburgh? I don't want to go anywhere. It's just ridiculous.
Maybe if you ask him every day, he'll have like a 200-point season next year. He'll just be so pissed off, just like the league on fire. Well, hey, guys, keep it tuned here on our YouTube. Follow us all on Twitter. We'll be going live again, and set alerts for Josh Yohe on Twitter, because I have a feeling there will be some notifications going out that you'll get some news, or there's some rumblings. So. Yeah, in the meantime, guys, we appreciate you and Mr. Neofis from the Bill and Neofis Insurance Group. We appreciate you and enjoy Carrot Top tonight. You guys are going there, right?
Yes, Bill and I will. I would expect the trade to come down at 11 o'clock Eastern time, right as I walk into the Luxor to see the Orange Man himself. So yeah, that's always the way it works. Just like the trades went off last night as my flight was landing in Vegas. It's always something like that. But yeah, we appreciate everybody watching, and gonna be a big 24 hours for sure. So stay tuned.
Yes, thanks, Bill, and thanks everybody. Thanks, Corey, for putting this together. Excellent work as always.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Right,
bye-bye.